They got their work cut out for them. Greg Schiano's a hell of a coach. They play very physical, want to run the ball, play great defense, much like a lot of the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
But, it'll be a real true road test challenge.
All right, well, here we go. A little Dawg Talk with Brock once again as we move into this season, and we kind of move past the first quarter of the season where I know the Huskies sure wished they would have been 4-0, and, well, maybe they were a fourth down or a little more away from being just that. And now the second quarter of this season, or it gets a whole lot tougher. Actually, the second, third, does that make any sense? It probably doesn't, but I rarely do. But a much tougher stretch. All four, the first at home in Seattle. These next four, three of them out on the road, including just about as far away as you can possibly go, all the way to beautiful Piscataway, New Jersey for Rutgers on a nationally televised Fox game on Friday night. We'll get Big Brother involved here in just a second. It was a blast with Chris Peterson. Thank you all so much for watching and talking and feedback and everything fun that Chris and I got done last week. But as I've done for these first 3 weeks, what I think, what I know, or what I think, what I've learned, what I know. What I think, what I know, what I've learned. What I've learned about these Huskies this season, Steve Belichick's done a heck of a job. You know, I really felt like defensively they had more pieces for Steve Belichick to work with than a little bit more of what Jed Fisch is trying to do, especially at the line of scrimmage. Yes, the defense lost a lot of people, lost a bunch of guys on their front, but it feels like both the transfers and everybody else are buying into this system. And, I think that Steve has done an awesome job. The metrics are off the charts. I know that Wazoo beat them. I know that Mateer had a good day, but nowhere near the day that he's had against everybody else. I also know their third down defense, that situational element. That's where you thought you would see a Belichick and an NFL kind of scheme and system come to life, and it has. One of the best third down defenses, one of the best red zone defenses. So that situational ball has really come to life. So I have certainly learned that Mr. Belichick has brought his NFL fingerprints and imprints all over that defense. So I've learned that. I think this offensive line is going to continue to be a real trouble over the course of this season. If it's been a problem at home, it becomes a lot more magnified out on the road where you can't hear. I've always said that defensive linemen in really loud environments get a half-step advantage off the line, both rushing and the run stunts, everything they like to do. Now you go on the road, including Piscataway, where this Rutgers team is undefeated. Been in that stadium. It gets going. They're going to be alive on Friday night. They're going to be electric. They're pretty fast defensively. I can remember Jake Browning, in fact, taking a shot there in that stadium that I didn't know if he would get up from, but ultimately he survived, and quite a run they went on that final year. But Rutgers is not an easy place to play, and it is a really, really long trip. And I think this offensive line is going to continue to be a real struggle. I know that they're going to battle. I know that Jed Fisch is going to just be blunt and confront the issues head on. I think he's going to continue to communicate in very transparent ways with what they are and what they're not. And I know that as difficult as Friday night may be, and I don't think Rutgers is going to run away from them. I think it'll be a highly competitive game. I do know that he's going to use that, for fuel over the rest of the season for sure. So let's invite Big Brother on. We did this a time or two last year on an incredible, epic run those Huskies went on, Damon. That's enough of me talking. Did you make the trip, first and foremost, out to Piscataway some years ago with Jake Browning? Were you still doing the radio on that lovely trip out to New Jersey?
Yes. Long trip, tough trip for sure, and Rutgers put up a fight. It was a tough game, but the Dogs did get it done that evening. So they can do it again. Although short week,
yeah,
it's going to be tough. Yeah. First road game, really, Lumen Field, I guess you could say, neutral stadium. But no doubt they got their work cut out for them. Greg Schiano's a hell of a coach. They play very physical, want to run the ball, play great defense, much like a lot of the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. But it'll be a real true road test challenge.
You know, I was chatting with a national guy yesterday, Damon, and I'm kind of curious where you think Jed Fisch lands on this, because Jed's kind of a transactional guy, been a lot of different places, learned under some of the very best. But when you look at the landscape, and the Big Ten is really representative of this, when you look at the landscape of college football and where there is more parity, where the transfer portal has opened things up, you look at what Brett Bielema has done at Illinois. The dude knows who he is, like exactly who he is, unapologetically so, and has been able in that portal to find guys that really fit his system. Like, we're going to be hard, tough, physical, run, hit you in the face, and has found, I think, a bunch of transfers that he knows. Like, hey, I know myself, kind of like a draft or free agency. Like, I know exactly what I'm looking for because I know exactly the kind of program that I ran at Wisconsin and at Arkansas and I brought to Illinois. Schiano in much the same vein. Like, that dude is Rutgers, right? Built Rutgers up. Ultimately left to the NFL and Ohio State as a D coordinator, and maybe not as much success as he had there at Rutgers. But in the same thought, Damon, like, I know who I am. I know what Rutgers is. I know exactly the kind of kids that I want to recruit and develop to this place. And I think there's some advantages. Both those guys are undefeated. When you look at Jed, and I know it's only been a month, it's only been 4 games, do you feel like he knows exactly the kind of guys that he wants to bring, like Kalen did with Penix and some of the others? Like, do you think Jed really knows, like, hey, man, this is what I want to build. This is what our identity is going to be. This is what our culture is going to be. So when I go in the portal or I recruit, I know exactly what I'm looking for. Do you have any feel or sense of that? And does that make any sense to you?
I think so. I mean, let's go back just 6-7 months ago where we've lost this whole roster. We have 2 returning starters, and since then we brought in 59 new players. I mean, are you kidding me? And we're 1 yard away from being 4-0. So yeah, I think you could put him right there in the same boat as those coaches, as saying he brought in the personnel that he likes. I mean, obviously, everyone's going to want the bigs, the O and the D line.
Yeah.
And, when Jed started as late in the process as he did, right, he didn't get that first transfer portal window like so many new coaches did when maybe they were hired in this cycle. He was one of the last coaches hired, and the transfer portal was closed other than, maybe a few other coaching moves around the country where that window opens up for 30 days. So he had the spring window, but, by the springtime, most guys want to get to their new program, and you're kind of getting the second wave of transfer guys maybe unhappy, didn't win the job. Maybe, there was an injury or something, over spring football. So, I think there's no doubt. He'd probably tell you, I'd love to have a few more horses on the O and D line. But credit both, him, Carroll, Belichick, the coordinators putting this thing together. I mean, I heard a little bit of what you were saying just about up front, the struggles. And, I mean, there's a lot of plays where these guys try to run the football, and it's kind of like running into a brick wall, right? I mean, Jonah Coleman has done a hell of a job despite, not a lot of lanes. He kind of creates it himself. Mm-hmm. Pass protection, I mean, Will Rogers, a lot of times, there's dudes in his face the minute he snaps his head around, but he's such a veteran quarterback. He gets rid of that ball, right? The ball's away. Obviously, the safety, maybe, that one was a little too high, but he's done a good job. He has such a great feel in the pocket, feels that pressure, played so much football. He doesn't make a bad play worse. So there are some holes, but these guys have coached at everywhere. And schematically, they're doing a hell of a job with what they got. So, yeah, I think he has the skill guys. I mean, most Power 5 Division I programs you can find receivers, probably find some running backs, although I think we have a really, really special running back. And then, they've done a great job, I think, with the back end of this defense. The linebackers are playing great. Durfee's a difference maker when he's in there. So, yeah, I think they got their guys.
Okay.
I think they're doing a good job with what the talent they have. And I think it'll get better in time, for sure.
Are you buying what I'm selling with Steve Belichick? You competed against Bill, right? You're in that culture and in that program, and I've loved what people have said that when Bill's out there, there's kind of the Bill way, and when Pete's out of practice, there's kind of the Pete, bounce around way. But ultimately, football-wise, now that you evaluate for 4 games, do you see some of like Bill and Steve's NFL scheme coming to life here with the Huskies?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they really mix it up. They do a lot of different things. I think they're trying to get their very best athletes on the field, even if they're undersized. You saw that in the Washington State game where they just kind of, a lot of guys get lined up. Well, no, this is kind of trying to confuse the offense. They did a really good job at that, other than the penalties, and then they gave up the big quarterback runs, which happens, especially in college football. But they're giving up 10 points a game over 4 games. The goal line stands. I mean, that's everything about attitude. So I think Steve's done an amazing job. With some limitations on that D line, especially depth wise. I think there's some good players, but not a lot of depth and a little undersized if we're being honest. So done a great job just getting stops and giving up 10 points a game. I mean, come on, that's going to give you a chance to win every Saturday or Friday night.
Or Friday night. Hey, last couple things here is you are around so much of the alumni and the boosters and everybody around Husky football. Is there a little bit of kind of excitement about seeing some of these new venues? I know they went to, as we mentioned, Jake Browning went out to Piscataway a few years ago. But when it comes to some of these road trips that are now looming to Big Ten country and inviting, obviously, Michigan into the building, are you starting to get a sense like, ooh, this Big Ten play is going to be a little different animal in some real positive ways?
Absolutely. A lot of people have never been to Penn State, and then, it's going to be the whiteout, which what an experience for college football fans just in general. That'll be awesome. At Iowa, another really neat place, a place probably none of our fans have ever been to. So, in Indiana now, it looks like a pretty good little football team, not just a basketball school this year with their new coach and the way they've gotten off to an undefeated start here. So, we got our hands full. I mean, only 3 home games left at Husky Stadium. It's amazing how fast it's gone by. Obviously, really only 6 this year with the neutral site game at Lumen. But 3 home games left at Husky Stadium. One of them is a Friday night game with UCLA. Obviously, Michigan and USC at home are going to be epic. A repeat of the national championship game just, a week and a half away. Going to be very special. But, they got some work to take care of this week at Rutgers. But at Rutgers, at Indiana, at Iowa, at Penn State, and, of course, the last one at Oregon in Eugene after Thanksgiving. So this is a tough, daunting schedule going forward for the Dogs. But, they're doing a great job so far, and I think Jed Fisch has done a great job just keeping this buzz going with this program that, had such an exciting year last season.
Okay, last thing here. If they find a way, 3,000 miles away in New Jersey to win on Friday night, which would go a long ways, that first one on the road in Big Ten country, how do they get it done?
How do they get it done? I think it's going to be a close game, right? I mean, I think the defense is going to keep them in there. I think offensively, again, this is a pro-style offense, so much different than a year ago, where Jed wants that balance, and complementary football, and they really take their time in the huddle for the most part. There's been a little tempo, but not much. And it's complementary football, right? You want to protect your defense. You want to run the football, control the clock. I mean, it's Big Ten football in a lot of ways. But, it's been so efficient. Only 2 turnovers in 4 games. That's a recipe for success. So you don't turn the ball over on the road. I think you limit the penalties. They proved they could correct that from a week ago. But it is going to be so much louder, such a bigger challenge. But I think it's just one of those games, much like a lot of pro football. I think both the talent on both these teams is very equal. So, right, let's just keep this thing close. Let's get to the fourth quarter and win this thing in the fourth quarter. And I think, it's not going to be a real high-scoring game, but play efficient, play smart like Will Rogers has done all year. No interceptions. I think 9 touchdown passes, completing like 80% of his passes or something. So just very efficient. And then let the defense obviously do what they do, and they're going to have an awesome scheme and just keep this thing close, win in the fourth quarter if they can get it done.
I appreciate you doing this from your office, too. You got some cool pictures up there. I got dolphins.
Glory days, Brock. Glory days.
A lot of glory days. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, big bro. Hopefully we can do this again. A little maybe different season than a year ago, that 14-1 run to the national title game.
You never know. You never know.
You never do know in college football. And Friday night will be a big one, man. So appreciate you, big bro.
You got it.
Enjoy your glory days. Love you.
See ya. Love you too.